Greetings, everyone. This lesson is all about bringing Exchange Server 2016 into an existing Exchange Server organization. So, in order to do that, I want to spend this video talking about some of the requirements that your Exchange Server organization needs to meet before you begin installing Exchange Server 2016. Now, in many ways, these requirements are exactly the same as they would be if you were starting from scratch by building a brand new Exchange 2016 organization. This is especially true for the servers that are going to be receiving Exchange 2016. So for example, your new Exchange server has to be running Windows Server 2012 or above, and those servers are going to have all of the prerequisite components installed. Now, as you'll see in one of the later videos, it is possible to have Exchange Server Setup install most of the prerequisite components for you. But one way or another, those prerequisite components are going to have to get installed before you can get Exchange 2016 up and running. So what else? Well, there's also a requirement that the new Exchange server that you're setting up be a domain member, because Exchange server is completely dependent on the Active Directory. And the only way that that dependency can work is if the server is a domain member prior to the installation of Exchange server. Now, the one big exception to that is if you're setting up an Exchange 2016 Edge transport server. Edge servers not only don't require domain memberships, but they can't be a member of a domain because the entire purpose of an Edge server is to provide a layer of isolation from the Active Directory environment. Now, one last requirement that I've got listed on this slide is that the forest functional level has to be at least Windows Server 2008 or above. So I've talked about some of the requirements for your new Exchange servers. What about your existing Exchange servers? Well, there are some requirements, but those requirements are pretty simple. First of all, your Exchange server organization can't contain any Exchange 2007 servers or any servers running older versions of Exchange. So Exchange 2010 is supported, 2013 is supported, and of course 2016 is supported. Now, if you are running Exchange 2010 or 2013, there are some requirements that you're going to have to adhere to. Any Exchange 2010 servers that you've got running have to be running Update Rollup 11 for Exchange Server 2010 Service Pack 3. Or if there happens to be a higher update rollup by the time you watch this video, then that's what you would probably go with. Now, with regard to Exchange Server 2013, all of your Exchange 2013 servers have to be running Cumulative Update 10 or higher. Now, before you begin installing Exchange Server 2016, there are a few things that you can do to get your Exchange server organization ready. First and foremost, back up your Exchange servers and your domain controllers. I cannot stress this enough. Because you see, when you install Exchange, typically the experience goes smoothly, but not always. I've lost count of the number of times that I've had an Exchange server installation go horribly wrong on me, and it's always when I didn't expect a problem. So be sure to create backups just in case anything does go wrong, because you never know when you may need to revert your organization back to its previous state. Now, obviously, you want to back up your Exchange servers, but you really need to back up your Active Directory too, because remember, Exchange Server stores almost all of its configuration data in the Active Directory. So if you don't back up the Active Directory and something goes wrong, then the Active Directory could be left in a corrupt state. So what else? Well, there are some things that you can do to prepare your new Exchange servers for the installation of Exchange. First of all, and I talked about this one a moment ago, join the server to the domain. After you've done that, something else that you can do is to copy the Exchange server installation files to the server. Now, this one's kind of an optional step, but it's something that I do on my servers, and you'll see that throughout this video series. The third thing on the list is verify that the RSAT ADDS is installed. So what is that? Well, these are the Active Directory Directory Services tools, and you can install these through Server Manager, or you can open up Windows PowerShell and type get-Windows feature RSAT-ADDS, and that will tell you whether or not this feature is installed. And if it's not installed, then you can use the install-Windows feature commandlet and then type RSAT-ADDS, and that will install the feature for you, so that way you can prepare the server for the installation of Exchange. So one more thing that you may need to do prior to deploying Exchange Server 2016 is to prepare the Active Directory. Now, this isn't something that you'll have to do in every situation, because you see, if you just run Exchange Server Setup, then Exchange will prepare the Active Directory for you. That's great. So why am I showing you this? Well, in a lot of environments, administrative responsibilities are siloed. So you might have one team that's responsible for Exchange and a different team that's responsible for the Active Directory. And in environments like that, the Exchange team would lack the proper permissions to prepare the Active Directory. So you can't depend on setup to automatically prepare the Active Directory in that type of situation. So if you do have an organization where administrative responsibilities are siloed, then what you would do is give the Exchange Server installation media to someone on the Active Directory team, and then tell them to run these commands. So let's take a look at this. You'll notice that all of these commands start with setup.exe, and this is the Exchange Server 2016 setup program. So somebody on the Active Directory team would type setup.exe/prepare schema/I accept Exchange Server license terms and press enter. And then Exchange Server setup would launch, and it would prepare the Active Directory schema. It's an automated process. The people on the Active Directory team wouldn't have to take any sort of administrative action beyond just running this command. So once the schema is prepared, then the next step in the process is to prepare the Active Directory forest. And this process is every bit as easy. Once again, whoever is doing this would run setup.exe, only this time we're using different switches. Those switches are prepare AD and I accept Exchange Server license terms. And again, this is an automated procedure. There's nothing that has to be done interactively beyond just typing this command. So the last thing that you would need to do is to prepare the Active Directory domains. Now there are two different ways of doing this, and the method that you would use is going to vary depending upon whether you're preparing all of your domains or if you're preparing some domains but not others. So if only some of the domains need to be prepared for Exchange, then you would use this command right here at the bottom. It would be setup.exe/prepare domain : and then the domain name, and then /I accept Exchange Server license terms. Very simple. But you would need to repeat this for every domain that needs to be prepared, substituting the domain name that you would want to use. Now, if you've only got one domain, or if you're going to be preparing all of your domains, then you would use this command up here: setup.exe/prepare all domains /I accept Exchange Server license terms. So in this command, we didn't have to specify a domain name. We're just preparing any domains that happen to exist. So this one is kind of a shortcut. But one thing to keep in mind is that all of these steps that I just showed you, in many organizations, they're optional, because you only need this if you've got siloed administrative responsibilities and the Exchange Server team doesn't have the proper rights to be able to prepare the Active Directory themselves. I've also seen this technique used if the Exchange team wants to get a jump on things and prepare the Active Directory well ahead of the actual deployment process. But if the Exchange Server administrators also have Active Directory administration rights, then it's just as easy to just run Exchange Server setup, go through the setup wizard, and let setup prepare the Active Directory for you. So that's going to do it for this video. And in the following videos, I'm going to actually work through the process of bringing Exchange Server 2016 into an existing Exchange Server 2013 environment.